Look, in the States, we make business when the bottom line looks good. In Europe, we make business depending on who's your family. But here in this region, we make business depending on who do you know.
I love that.
So then I
That's
said,
such an important insight there.
This is Challenger Brands, helping you build better brands and businesses. Hosted by Illustrado, the brand development and creative agency for ambitious and audacious challenger brands.
Welcome to another episode of Challenger Brands, where we help entrepreneurs and brand custodians build better brands and businesses. I'm your host, Chu-Benitez. I'm the managing director here at Illustrado, brand development and creative agency. Our topic for today is about startups. 90% of startups fail within the first 5 years. This is a common thing that you see a lot on the internet. And the thing is, what we've noticed is that in recent years, the startup founder has become the new rock star, right? So there are a lot of people that want to build startups or who have startups that they want to get funded. If you're one of those guys, please listen in today because we're going to dive deep into how to get your startup not just funded, but up and running properly. But before that, I would like to thank our partners and our long-standing supporters, Rove Hotels. Thank you so much, Rove. We have an amazing guest today, and I hope that I will give her bio some justice because she's done so much for so many people, for so many businesses. Our guest today is Dr. Anna Arzua MacMillan. She's the Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer at Venture FactorE. Now, Anna is a dynamic business leader with over 15 years, not just of regional experience, but of global experience. Anna has been a member of the executive boards of many industries spanning healthcare, pharma, sustainability, AI, technology, and innovation. And Anna is super passionate about what she does. Her experience in government relations and also international business has brought so much investment opportunities to the Middle East. More than that, Anna is also a philanthropist. I'm losing my breath now, Anna, because there's so much good stuff to say. Anna is also a philanthropist who's very passionate about women empowerment. She is also very passionate about helping SMEs, and that's a lot of work to do. Anna, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Anna, welcome to the show. I'm so honored to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The honor is mine, and I hope we can contribute something to all the community.
I'm very sure. I mean, I'm very excited to talk about all the things that, you can share to startup founders out there, because I know that having a startup is not easy. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask you, because you used to call yourself a Chief Connector Officer, which I found so interesting because this is not a typical, designation or job description or a title that somebody would give to themselves. Can you tell us what a Chief Connector Officer is?
Sure. So a Chief Connector Officer, it seems in a bit of a cheeky way. Okay. When I just landed in Dubai in the 2000s, I have noticed, that on a regional level, everyone was using C-level positions to identify themselves. And I found it really interesting because career-wise, in other regions, it's not so easy to reach that kind of level. But as I was diving into the region and into the cultural, aspects of it, I have noticed that a lot of these people who were proudly holding these C-level positions had a massive handicap when it came to actually having a powerful network within the Middle East. And one of the things that's very important, and I can tell you, growing up, this was a fundamental lesson, and I would say even a family value, was understanding the power of your network, right? And see, lobbying, for example, is usually a bad word in different countries, but I wouldn't consider it a bad word if you understand the power of developing and leveraging a network. When it came to the moment of as a founder deciding what my title would be, I realized that I was meeting with a lot of CEOs who have just landed in the country as me. And they were not aware of all these different cultural aspects that they needed to absorb from the region. So I came to the conclusion of, look, in the States, we make business when the bottom line looks good. In Europe, we make business depending on who's your family. But here in this region, we make business depending on who do you know.
I love that.
So then I said...
That's such an important insight there.
Absolutely. And that was the point that for me was, I would say, a very insightful time to say, look, this is not about being a CEO. This is not about being a COO. This is about understanding that the only power you can develop behind that C-level position is related to your network. So what do I know how to do best? Connecting people.
I love that.
So that's how that, in a little bit of a jokingly way,
Yeah.
came to exist. And until now, I'm very proud to consider myself a person that's actually connecting humans.
Definitely.
Because when you look at the reality, Lalaine, is we do business with people.
Exactly.
And we do business with people we like, and then we trust.
Definitely.
You don't trust people
Never in
before you
isolation.
like them.
Yeah.
And that's a very important take for me, and a very important aspect of all I do. And when I'm saying this, I think the other component that's very important to keep in mind is networking has to stem from a place of genuine understanding
Yes.
and will of connecting, not I'm connecting with you because I want something from you.
It's relationship
It's
building,
I'm
yeah?
connecting with you because I'm interested in
Yeah.
interested in you as a person.
Yeah.
That's where we can build.
I mean, that's just the first question, but I can see a wealth of knowledge there already that we're going to be picking on later on. We'll keep on coming back to that. But I love the way that is coming from a place of humility, but also from a place of practicality, right?
Totally.
In a place where everybody is CEO, we're saying that it's not just about using the CEO title, it's
not.
actually building that network, because that's the network that will provide you with the business. That's going to drive the growth.
Absolutely, absolutely. See, one of the things that I first noticed at that point was the fact that a lot of CEOs, a lot of C-level people would brag about these titles. The title does not make the person makes the title. And if you
I
want
love
to
that,
have,
yeah.
you know, the opportunity of backing that, you need to have a powerful network. A CEO who's not able to develop the right kind of networks is not a CEO. It's just an operational figure with
Yes.
a high-paid salary.
Okay.
And that's it.
Let me repeat it for the people in the back. The title does not make you. It's you who makes the title. Remember
Totally.
that. Anybody who's listening today, what a wonderful lesson to know. Anna, tell us about Venture FactorE and all of the exciting projects that you're into. What is Venture FactorE specializing in? You were talking about, building bridges and connecting people. Can you tell us about that?
Definitely. So again, going back in time, the way I landed in the country was with a startup that had won and was a fully funded startup. And we needed to just come and implement things, right? When we did that, we noticed a lot of different gaps within the ecosystem. And with the experience as a founder, step by step, we have been trying to bridge all of these pain points that we as entrepreneurs, first-time entrepreneurs at that point, because as you know, I come from a corporate background, and when I decided to actually venture in my own research and launching my own startup, a lot of things were completely different.
Of course.
A lot of aspects had to be taken care in a complete different way, and all the hypotheses we had were departing in many cases from the wrong places. I did during all my corporate career, and as you know, I'm still serving on the board of this pharmaceutical, work in investments. And one of my latest positions has always been the acquisition of innovation and smaller startups, right, for R&D and different other purposes. In all of this process, I have learned that there are so many ways in which the system does not serve the founders. And as a first-time founder, I learned so many lessons that I wish somebody would have sat with me and at least, warn me. One of the most important things, Lalaine, is I feel, on a global level, being a founder is being hyped and glamorized in a way that just doesn't make any sense.
The new rock stars, right?
Absolutely. And you're not that. You are absolutely not that. When you don't start your journey as an entrepreneur with an empty cup and the wheel of learning, you're going to hit yourself against that wall over and over and over. Because believe me, the process of being a founder and successfully raising capital and scaling up is a very humbling process.
Exactly.
And whoever went through that process and did not humble down, I don't know, they are a stone.
Exactly. I mean, people have seen that, movie about Mark Zuckerberg, they read about Steve Jobs and all these people, and they think it's all about glamour, whereas it's such a grueling process, right? You were raising something from scratch, from the ground up, and it's a terrible process, in fact. I mean, I've been there myself, so it's not an easy thing. Anna, let's talk about getting healthy, right? In terms of the startup, right? If you had to start your startup once again, if you had to begin again from zero, what are the things that you need to think about to hit a healthy level? What would be milestones that you would say, you would consider, okay, my startup is on its way to growth, it's on its way to good health. Maybe we're still bootstrapping, but at least we need to hit these milestones. What are those milestones?
Let me go one step back.
Okay.
And let me emphasize on one particular aspect. I think when we talk about startups, even though I always recommend founders not to build their whole identity around their startup, it's very important to understand that, yes, you are the foundation of your startup. And when I'm saying this, what I'm trying to say, and sometimes I overdo it, is please understand that there's no healthy startup if you are not healthy yourself.
That's a great point, yeah.
And just yesterday, I have shared, because I'm all over this past weeks, I have received a lot of different comments and a lot of frustration from different startups, letting us know that actually the process is harder than they thought. And yesterday I posted something on a story where I said, you know what, if you need encouragement, don't start a company. If that's what you need,
it's not for everybody,
don't
right?
start. Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart.
Definitely.
It's definitely very important to understand that once you are in the process, taking care of your health is taking care of your major asset. And when we talk about taking care of your health, I also want to have a very clear mention on the importance of mental health and mental hygiene for founders. This is something that's not talked about enough.
Yes.
I think it's really underestimated. And there's no discussion we can do with founders who are not healthy as investors. And maybe a lot of people say, okay, you have a background in healthcare, you're trying to push a mental health agenda. No,
I don't think so.
This is not an agenda. Hear me out.
Let's describe
I'm
this.
sitting as an investor here, telling you that if I don't feel like the health of my founder is good enough, I will not invest.
I love that. This is the first time I'm hearing it, Anna. So I think this is very important that we talk about this. I mean, I haven't heard this from the other, podcasts and videos, because the usual talk is about shipping that product, the minimum viable product. But here you are saying that startup founder health is super important, because being in a startup means endless nights, right? No holidays, no weekends,
Yes.
bootstrapping it for all putting in your own savings in there, maybe
Yes.
even putting your own family's money into the startup.
Absolutely.
And most of the time it's working by yourself, because nobody will be as passionate as you are in that business that you're trying to build.
And the other thing is, again, even when there is an ecosystem, before you can reach and take advantage of that ecosystem, you yourself need to do a lot of internal work in order to understand what are you trying to build, because the startup in the first stages lives only in your head, and what we as investors see is what you were able to translate for us. But the reality is the overall product already exists in your head, and probably a lot of the product journey and a lot of what that company could become exists only in your vision. But your vision is completely attached to who you are as an individual, who you are as a person, and who you are as a healthy human being, right? And I think this is something that I consider one of the most toxic aspects of glorifying entrepreneurship or founders nowadays.
Hustle culture, right?
Correct. So that hustle culture, how long and how sustainable that is,
Exactly.
right? And I think when we go back into something like this, then we can discuss all of the other requirements of an investor, of a VC, of, a private equity or a hedge fund. But before you are in a position to actually take care of your own health, why would I invest in you is
That's
the
good.
question,
It's a very good point.
right? Investors are looking at the return on investment. The return on investment is only possible when you're going to be there
Of course.
to provide that
Yeah.
return.
If you look like you're going to collapse anytime,
Correct.
or you're so close to a panic attack, why would people put money on your project, right? Because you can be sick any day, right?
Yes,
It's a very important
absolutely.
insight.
I think this is one of the things that is not discussed enough. We definitely need to create a healthier environment across the overall startup and SME ecosystem, because otherwise what I feel it's happening is we have fallen into this culture of rewarding very toxic and unhealthy
Yes.
behaviors under the name of hustle, hashtag hustle.
Exactly.
This is not about a
Or
hashtag.
hashtag productivity, right?
Correct. So, yeah, productivity does not mean that you're working 18 hours in a day. It's that if you're working 8 hours, you're fully lucid and you have
Exactly.
the mental
Yeah,
clarity
that's
and
true.
you have all it takes for you to make the right decisions for that product, for that company, and for the people that's trusting that company and project. When it comes to going down and very specifically to your question, I think one of the very important things when we talk about a healthy startup, I would say, in very investment terms wise, first of all, it comes down to the founders. I think the selection of the co-founders is very important. We see a lot of founders, first-time founders especially, and you would be surprised, second and third-time founders who have failed in the past still keep making the same mistake of choosing, for example, if they are from a very technical background, they still choose a co-founder that basically is a replica of themselves. When you're finding yourself in this kind of situation, maybe that person is great to work with, but the reality is having a co-founder that has your exact same skill set
Yeah.
does not support your overall goals.
I see. Okay.
So we start from there. Then we move a little bit to the business model. Many times we see that most of the handicaps when it comes to looking at the business model, looking at the financials, come from startups that have focused on having a very similar set of founders and co-founders, right? When you have a lot of very good, brilliant technical people who have no idea of business and no experience of bringing a product to the market, it's very unlikely that your business model would be anywhere close to be accurate. That's the first thing. So with that being said, we could be talking about a healthy startup, but you need to let people in.
Okay.
And we see a lot of brilliant ideas, where the main problem is there is not enough market. They are in the wrong market. They did not do the right homework. One of the very interesting things right now is, I don't know if you saw, there is a meme running around where, this story about Sell Me This Pen. Do you remember that movie, right? Sell Me This Pen, the story, right? So it says now the answer of all the founders is it's AI powered, right? So see, the latest trend in technology or whatever the current buzzword is not the answer to your business model, or it's not the answer to a healthy startup, right? You need to have a lot more than that. The other very important thing is you see a lot of these co-founders with very technical skills who talk a lot, big game about UX.
Yes.
User experience. User experience is not just in the platform. User experience and being an actual customer-centric business, it's far beyond the functionalities and how fast your platform loads.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? It's a lot more, and it takes a lot of talking to people. We see a lot of founders who have done the theoretical research but have not sat down to talk to actual users or potential users for that matter.
So understanding the real experience from the customer's point of view.
The real experience or the real pain points. I can read about your pain point, but if I haven't sat down with you to understand the pain point, I can resolve it in a theoretical way.
Definitely.
And see, startups are not here to create new theorems. We are here to bring up solutions that are sustainable to the market.
I love that. Again, a very important piece of advice there. We're not here to test theorems. We're here to actually bring up, sustainable systems, right? That people can actually work with.
Definitely. Look, one of the things that I always love to talk about is the fact that a lot of founders feel smarter than anyone else. And whereas IQ
that's very dangerous.
IQ is really important, Lelaine. IQ is really important. But if IQ is not associated with EQ,
yes, very true,
and with AQ,
yes,
emotional quotient is massively important. First of all, you as a founder, you are the MVP. A lot of people think the MVP is the platform.
Another good point.
You are the MVP. If you are not a minimum viable founder, I will not invest. The MVP, as an investor, we can make corrections and it can go through. But if you as a founder, if you're not an MVP, there's nothing to talk about. You can have a brilliant idea, but there's no way anyone will back you.
I love that. Hold that thought, because I think there's a lot more on that. That's a first that I've heard that concept. I'd like to talk about that more, but before that, Anna, we will just take a break and say thank you again to our partners.
This is Challenger Brands. Please subscribe to our channel and share our content. Follow us on our agency's social media pages, Illustrado.co, on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, or subscribe to our newsletter via our website, www.illustrado.co. Thank you to our sponsors for today's episode. Rove Hotels. Rove Hotels are a jumping-off point for city explorers, simply designed for the young and young at heart. Born in Dubai, Rove is an award-winning lifestyle brand offering well-designed hotels, fuss-free service, and great value in well-connected locations. More than just a bed for the night, Rove provides rovers, the missing link to connect you to the city like a local, and explore the track less trodden in a relaxed environment where you can be yourself. With sustainability, local art, and high-performing functionality at the heart of its brand, Rove represents a new niche of hospitality for the digital nomad looking to become part of the neighborhood, even when they're just passing through. Please check them out at rovehotels.com.
And we're back to our very interesting discussion. Okay, the MVP is not the business. The MVP is the founder. What an amazing insight there, Anna. Can you explain this to us?
See, when we go over investment terms, yes, we do call the product as the MVP when it reaches that stage of minimum viable product.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I always like to take a step back and analyze whether this is a brilliant idea, a brilliant concept, but most importantly, is there a team behind it who is capable to execute on this and bring it to the market?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Brilliant ideas exist everywhere. And one of the things that sometimes gets confused is what is the actual value and how much investors focus on who are the founders.
Mm-hmm.
And who are the founders is not limited to what's your alma mater, what's your previous work experience, but who are the founders initially for me means, are you a flexible person? Are you capable of taking feedback? Do you demonstrate that you're resilient? Can I teach you? I think, one of the most important things that an investor would look at is, are you coachable? Are you teachable? Because startups, as anything, they are starting to walk. Mistakes will happen.
Mm-hmm.
But if it comes to it, and the investor needs to intervene to rescue that project, the founders should be teachable.
Yes.
If the founders are not teachable, how do you go about it?
That's another underrated piece of advice, I think, because
absolutely, Lalaine.
most founders pride themselves in being, the leaders all the time, right? Most of these founders are alphas. They know their ideas are out there. They're always pushing based on what they believe, their own worldview. So, to be told that they need to be teachable and flexible, I guess that's not easy for everybody, right?
I was talking previously to you and saying, look, your IQ is definitely important. Your EQ is very important. But one of the most important things for me, and especially I think whoever did not learn this lesson during COVID has missed out, is the quotient, the adaptability quotient. If you don't have adaptability quotient, you're not teachable, you're not coachable. And it's not just about can the investor teach you. The most important part, Lalaine, is can the market teach you? If the market can't teach a founder, that product is not going to go well.
I love that.
Because what is true today might not be true in 5 years down the line. If your adaptability quotient is very low, that will reflect on the product, that will reflect in the product roadmap, and it will also reflect on how that product is perceived and how safe that product is as a unique solution. Because the minute you stop being teachable by the market, there is a market opportunity for somebody else.
Yes.
Because you have created that gap. So as an investor, the adaptability quotient of the founders is paramount.
I love that. Okay, repeating it for the people in the back. I love that phrase. But just to consolidate that, founders, to be investable, they need to be flexible, they need to be resilient, they need to be teachable and adaptable.
Totally.
What are the no-goes? What type of founders will venture capitalists not put their money on?
Well, I think there are a lot of answers to this question. Many of them are very politically correct. And
let's not be politically correct, Anna. Tell us.
See, I think there are different options, and there is no universal truth. I think there is a combination of factors that helps investors make a decision and say, okay, you know what, we can go with them or not. But again, if you look at what are the attributes that you look when you want to invest, I would say the contrary is true. Whoever represents the opposite values are not investable. But then when you go a little bit back, and I would say a lot of investors would think twice and thrice when it comes to investing on a couple.
So couples, co-founders are a no-go.
I wouldn't say they are a no-go, but they are a massive question mark. And there are a lot more of considerations that have to be in place in order to say, look, if we invest in this couple, we need to understand that first of all, you need to understand at what stage that couple itself is. Are they married? Are they engaged? Are they just, a couple? Are they just dating? What's the situation, right? Let's say, for the sake of it, okay, this is a married couple. The first thing you would need to look at is that the bylaws of that startup have to be comprehensive in a way that whatever happens to that relationship does not reflect an impact on the future of that startup.
It sounds silly when we talk about it, but honestly, relationships have a real impact on the business, right?
They do. I mean, Lalaine, how many cases do you know where couples are fighting over a dog? Okay.
What more a business? What more a unicorn, a 1 billion startup, right?
Of course. And see, it's not just about looking at, okay, what is the exit strategy that we are going to design in case these two get divorced, okay? And I would say still a married couple is safer than just a dating couple. Because a dating couple, the minute there is a problem, you don't know how's that going to go down.
That's very volatile, yeah.
Yeah, it's not just very volatile, but there are very few considerations to break just a casual relationship versus a marriage. I'm not saying that, divorce takes a lot more, but what I'm saying is usually there are legal aspects involved and protected within a marriage that are not, in a casual relationship. The other thing that's very important is we see co-founders trying to hide that they are dating.
Okay.
Don't do that. We can tell.
People will find out, yeah.
We can tell. We see you, we can tell. If you're dating, we see it. There's no need. We see it. And we see the dynamic, and we see the edges.
Yeah.
Don't lie. Come to us very clean, very clear.
With the situation,
of course, you might think you don't need to disclose your private life. And I would agree, yes, you don't need to make a post on Instagram saying that you are dating. But if you want my money, you definitely need to talk to me on what are the risks and mitigation that
Definitely.
you have planned for your startup.
Definitely.
We see a lot of founders coming up with a fantastic slide of risks and mitigation. And you look at them and you see all of this is technical. I do agree with that. My concern is when the two of you break up, what's going to happen with my money?
That's a great question. Is that something that you see during pitches?
Oh, yes, yes.
These are
we do.
valid questions. And I think they're important because they do impact the business.
See, we see
Yeah.
this, not only we see it, sometimes we confront it during a pitching and we say, the two of you are a couple. Many times, especially in this region, co-founders will say no, right? That there is a lot of, concern perhaps about coming out as a couple in here, especially when they are not married. And many cases have happened that we have to have a conversation with them after the pitching and say, look, you need to let us know because this is important. Many of them will come out clean at the second, or third time they're being questioned about. Many of them won't. And then we just decide that they are not right for us. Because see, if they are willing to lie to you,
Yes.
right, about who is part of their private life, they are not trustworthy. And one of the most important things in your relation with investors is that trust is a both-way avenue.
Definitely.
So this is a very important thing
I like
that
that.
I would definitely suggest to be open and to discuss accordingly. Because, see, we are not saying don't date your co-founder. We are saying if you do, you need to understand that there has to be a lot more of planning and legal considerations if that relationship let me not use if, let me use when that relationship goes wrong. Because any relationship between two humans has ups and downs.
Yes. Very true.
And what we cannot afford is that a bad week for that couple translate in a bad week for the product.
For the business, yeah.
Yes, for
Exactly.
the business. Correct.
Anna, I will be asking you about investor relations, but before we move there, tell us about, just quickly, what are the elements of investability? What are the main things? If you can give us a checklist of what investors are looking to determine whether the business is investable.
Sure. I think one of the most important things is to understand whether the market opportunity is there for that particular product. Having a technology developed, and look, I'm focusing a lot on product-based because most of the startups we received are product-based, right? When you have this kind of business model or this kind of business, what you want to look at is there a market opportunity? And we look micro and macro. We see a lot of different startups, for example, in Eastern Europe, that have brilliant technologies, okay? But for so many different reasons, Lalaine, that's not the right market for them, or that particular market is too small. In many ways, we have found startups who have developed fantastic AI solutions, for example, in Eastern Europe. But what happens? Maybe there are certain regulations, or maybe there are certain reasons why that technology can't be right now implemented and scaled at the level it has to be in order to be profitable. So in that case, maybe the market opportunity is not there in that particular market. But if on a global level, that solution, moving it or translating it, like we call it, to a different market, could, it's viable, right? You could be talking about a product that's really interesting for investors. And this is the case for many startups that we have brought from Finland and from other Eastern countries, right? Why? Because Dubai is a global hub.
Yes.
And that's also important. Where are your headquarters?
Okay.
Right? It's very important to understand, okay, what's the market opportunity in the place you are? Or is there a global market opportunity, and just moving yourself and moving your startup can make a difference? I think a lot of founders start looking at a problem with a global perspective, and a lot of them do it in a micro
Yeah. You're
way.
living in a local reality, right?
Correct. The problem is many times they are not aware of the laws of the country. Many times they are not aware of a lot of different things. The other very important thing is your product, or does your product have a unique value proposition? When we talk about LLMs, for example, large language models, I don't want to name any, but there are very famous ones that students are using all over the place. And I love it. Absolutely love it. But when you look at it, we know 3-4 brands of LLMs right now, okay, 3-4 startups, but there are thousands of LLMs developed in so many different ways. You look at them, the founders could be so cool, so great. They could be investable in so many ways, but the product doesn't have a unique value proposition.
What makes you unique, right? What makes the product unique?
If your product is just a few degrees away from somebody who's already successful in the market, why you? See? So that's very important. The other thing that I would say has a massive impact when deciding to invest is the scalability of that project, of that product. And the scalability has to be on a reasonable timeline. We can't be investing on something, or I would say not that we can't, I would say it's a higher risk to invest in something that's not scalable within the first 5 years. Okay? And probably the other thing where I think there are a lot of mistakes being made is in the track and validation, but especially because there is a fundamental error on the market research. So when your market research fails you, or when you fail at market research, it fails you, right? And this is now talking about LLMs. It's a very interesting thing, because I think we see a lot of founders that are very innocent to the fact that ChatGPT cannot resolve their problems for market research. And we see this over and over and over, and even any of the LLMs are brilliant tools. You need to understand what are you talking about in order to maximize the output that any of the LLMs will provide.
Definitely.
And we see a lot of mistakes. Why? Because all of these LLMs, they don't reason, or their reasoning is based on the data they found all across the internet. So many of those are premises that are not valid. So if you are taking that kind of input within your considerations, your output will be, erratic.
I mean, you're trying to build a business. You have to have your own hard work as a basis, your own position in the market. What is your opinion of how things are going to go? You have to exercise your own brains, not just the brains of whatever, system that you're using, right? You cannot just rely on that.
See, in order to rely on that, you need to do enough homework.
Of course.
You need to see, I think all the LLMs are great on a drafting level. Okay, and this is true whether it is for content, whether it is for research, for whatever it is. You need to be able to understand that there is a deviation standard that has to be applied to anything that comes as an output, And you can't take it as a universal truth just because the machine threw
Of
a
course.
result to you. When it comes to market research, it's fundamental to understand that a market research that's not well done has a great impact. Why? Because you can run with the risk of overestimating the market value, the market size, and therefore the market opportunity.
Good old-fashioned research is still a great foundation, guys. Never get lazy just because all these tools are here, right, Anna?
See, the tools, Elaine, are as good as the people using them.
That's for sure.
The tools are just as good as the people using them.
Definitely.
Tools are brilliant. We used to have indexes, when we were back in uni, right? And indexes used to save us a lot of time in order not to be going around the whole library. But again, it's just about how you use those resources and how you validate those resources, the output of those resources.
Anna, what's the right time to seek funding? At which stage should startups let go of the bootstrapping and actually get help from investors? What's the right time?
Look, I think the right time for investing depends on what's the project. There are a lot of people looking for investment on a seed level. Probably you heard there, companies, incubators, and whatnot working on a seed level. Do I agree that 80% of those companies on a seed level are ready for investment? I personally don't agree. I think the risk is too high. I think the considerations and the information is not enough at that point. And I even think at that level, even the co-founders and the relation between co-founders is not mature enough to understand, as an investor, how big the risk is. When it comes to startups, one of the things that's always overestimated for me is the value of an idea.
This is an important point.
An idea is worth nothing unless you start working on it and you start bootstrapping your idea and you start, chewing that idea enough until you can swallow and digest the idea. I feel there is a lot of temptation on securing early investment where we at Venture FactorE prefer not to. We have a higher focus on working with scalable startups. We like to talk about scale-ups. We do work, I would say, probably in a 2080, with startups. But we do work with startups on an initial stage when we say, look, this is a company, an idea. These are founders that have the potential to be unicorns. Otherwise, we prefer to work with the old-fashioned scalable
Scale-ups. They're already at that point and ready to grow, right?
Yes, and they have gone through so many stages where we minimize the risk for our investors. Because that's the other thing that is important. We not only partner with startups, we partner with investors. And I like to think that we are fair to both sides of the equation. Because I feel it's also our duty to protect the resources of our investors.
Of course.
The same way they take our recommendations, it's very important for us that we respect this trust and that we honor this trust by making sure that what we are recommending as a potential good investment, it's actually something that will have not the right return on investment, but that will have a return on investment.
So, what's the advice, the general advice to startup founders who have yet to reach that level, Anna? So, I'm on the bootstrapping stage. I'm trying to prove that my MVP is working, that the business model is profitable. What's the advice there? Because that's a very, very difficult period to be in.
I think, again, we are focusing a lot on a product-based kind of business model. And I would address the question based on that. Because, again, every startup has a different journey depending on what's it based on. But let's say if it's a product-based startup, I would focus on, yes, bootstrapping is very important, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're in touch with the reality. I think founders fall into the temptation of losing touch with the reality. And I'm not saying that founders, or perhaps some founders, are delulu, but what I'm trying to say is sometimes you're looking at a product and you're listening to a pitch, and all you can hear is that this founder is saying they are going to buy because it's the only solution. They are going to buy because it's me. They are going to buy because, no. No. You need to have a compelling argument for that product to have paying users. And I think sometimes we feel or we fall so much in love with the solution.
True.
Whereas my invitation to founders I mentor is, don't fall in love with the solution, fall in love with the problem. Because when you fall in love with the problem, and I'm always saying I'm in a relationship with the problem, right?
I like that, yeah.
When you fall in love, I know it's a little bit unorthodox, but when you look at it from that perspective, when you fall in love with a problem, you keep coming up with different ways to solve this problem. Many of the co-founders reach a stage, many of the founders reach a stage where they have, fallen for their solution so much that they can't see that there are another 100 ways to address that problem.
Exactly.
And that maybe that solution can only be a solution for certain bits of the market.
Yes.
When you work, when you fall in love with the problem, you can create a more reasonable product roadmap. Because your product needs to evolve. But if you fell in love with this version of it, that was pink and glittery and beautiful,
definitely.
and there's no place to keep improving.
Definitely.
And I think that's a high risk for founders. They suddenly hit a point where they feel so comfortable with what they have developed that they don't see other ways to solve it.
Exactly.
And when founders do that, they become really inefficient. And inefficiency is a very expensive bill to pay for any co-founder and founder. I do believe founders come up with brilliant ideas. And, I insist a lot on the role of the co-founder. Why? Because the co-founder so many times has to be the bad cop of the project. And having an idea, all of us have brilliant ideas. Some of us are more creative than others, but everyone on a regular day has at least 10 brilliant ideas. The role of your co-founder is to bring you down to earth and to make sure that once you're back to earth, we see how to execute that. We see if that is viable. We see if I take everything you say, and this is another thing that we always insist in the co-founder relationship. You don't want a person that keeps making you feel you're right. A co-founder
Yes,
that's
you need
not
people
able
to challenge you, yeah.
correct, a co-founder that's not able to question your ideas or the path that you are considering is not a useful co-founder, is
Very
not
true.
a useful asset for the overall organization. Because, see, two people can think alike, but if you think 100% alike, then
That's
there
not
is
good.
a very, very, very big risk
Yeah.
for that particular startup.
Yeah. Let me just consolidate that thought before we go to our next break. So, guys, founders out there, do not fall in love with your product because sometimes you end up getting tunnel vision. Allow your co-founder to bring you back to earth and then look at, fall in love with the problem, as Anna would say.
Totally.
Fall in love with the problem. Talk to your consumers. Do not have tunnel vision. And that's my signal for another break, saying thank you to Rove Hotels, our constant supporters and partners. Thank you, Rove.
This is Challenger Brands. Please subscribe to our channel and share our content. Follow us on our agency's social media pages, Illustrado.co, on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, or subscribe to our newsletter via our website, www.illustrado.co. Thank you to our sponsors for today's episode. Rove Hotels. Rove Hotels are a jumping-off point for city explorers, simply designed for the young and young at heart. Born in Dubai, Rove is an award-winning lifestyle brand offering well-designed hotels, fuss-free service, and great value in well-connected locations. More than just a bed for the night, Rove provides rovers, the missing link to connect you to the city like a local, and explore the track less trodden in a relaxed environment where you can be yourself. With sustainability, local art, and high-performing functionality at the heart of its brand, Rove represents a new niche of hospitality for the digital nomad looking to become part of the neighborhood, even when they're just passing through. Please check them out at rovehotels.com.
All right. Thank you for staying with us here at Challenger Brands, where we're getting a lot of really important information from our guest, Dr. Anna Arzua MacMillan. Anna, let's talk about investor relationships. How should founders regard, building a relationship with their investor? I mean, I've heard or I've read somewhere before that having an investor is like getting married, right? To another business, to another person. So how do you approach this?
So, see, I think when it comes to investor relations, what's very important to understand is that investors are people. Investors are just people with a highly developed business mindset, but they are people. And when you get to know investors, when you get to actually be in a relationship with investors, you get to understand that they are very simple, they are very down to earth. Yes, they are extremely practical. Most of them are very business oriented, but it's all about the relationship that you are able to develop with them. And when I'm saying this, I mean, it sounds like I'm trying to wrap around a lot of different things, but actually it's just understanding a little bit of personal relations and personal connection. One of the things that I'm always discussing with startups is you don't go to investors or you don't try to network with investors the day you need the money. You need to start networking and trying to come into the right circles way before you need the money. Because, see, there are two ways to look at investment, right? You can be looking at investment from a very cold, I would say investment banking, private equity, hedge fund perspective, right? Or you can be looking at investment for what investment really is. It's a business conducted by people to benefit people, right? So when we look at it in this way, we need to understand that investors have a lot of people coming to them with an agenda. So the first thing you want to make sure is that whatever interaction you have with investors is a genuine interaction. The minute you come and look very desperate,
Yes.
or the minute it feels so intentionally interested in their money, you are at a breaking point with that person, will just put you in the basket that all of us do.
Another person who needs my money.
Yes, so see,
It's a turnoff, right?
The way I look at it is, see, I usually say I have two baskets, and one of them is the people that appreciates me for what I actually bring to the table, and there is the other basket of people that appreciates me for what I can do for them. And the thing is, with an investor, when you appreciate them for who they are, right? You open a world where this investor can become a mentor for you. When you are just one more of the people, okay, who are coming to the queue for what the investor can do for you, what you're doing is positioning yourself just with the rest of the lot.
Yes, that's true.
And that's not a good spot to
It's
be.
not a good spot.
I would not advise that.
Yeah.
I would say once you have an idea, once you need to look at investment, you need to, as a first strategy, start socializing your project. And we were talking about the ideas and how ideas don't really have a value. I think a lot of founders are very scared about socializing their project. They think, oh, if I share my idea, they are going to go and implement it tomorrow. And yes, there is a risk. But even if you signed an NDA, even if you signed whatever you signed, contracts are made and break.
Yes.
Right? And there are lawyers that are specialized in breaking these contracts. But the fear of your idea being taken away cannot prevent you from socializing your project.
Exactly.
Because see, they always
Which you
say,
need more.
They always say, yes, exactly. They always say, oh, it takes a tribe to raise a child. It takes a tribe to raise a startup. It takes a tribe to raise a founder.
Definitely.
More importantly.
Definitely.
So you need to socialize your project. And when I'm saying you need to socialize your project, and you as a founder, you need to make sure to be intentional in the places that you network. Your network should, or your networking efforts should come from a place of adding value, not
Definitely.
taking.
Definitely.
And I think this is a very big temptation, and I find it a very lazy way of socializing or networking to be in places where I can get something.
Yeah.
You go to places with who you are,
Yeah.
trying to offer what you have.
Definitely.
And I think the first rule of thumb should be I give
I love that.
and I invest
Yeah.
in, offering what I can give.
Yeah.
And in leadership, we always hear, okay, different quotes, and okay, just ask, don't ask what others can do for you, ask what you can do for them. And, there is a very famous US president who said
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
But see, it's a very simple and universal concept.
Yeah, it is.
In order to make sure that first
You give.
you are giving.
Exactly.
Before you try to harvest, you made the effort of putting the crops in the right place.
I love that. And like you said earlier, this is not just for startups and investors.
Oh, no,
it's
no.
for any kind of network or community building you have to do in your life. Add value first. Don't just take, right? You've
Totally.
spoken about mentorship, Anna. I think this is, again, another one of the most underrated advice that has to be understood by founders, and not only founders of startups, but any kind of business owner. Tell us
Definitely.
about mentorship and how important this is in the life of a startup founder.
Look, like I was sharing earlier, I think there is a big temptation. There is a lot of trends on social media where, being a founder is equated to being a rock star. And whereas this could be fun, right, the reality of entrepreneurship and the reality of being a founder is that you're in a very lonely spot. And we were talking about the fact that I consider the founders to be the MVP. When that is true, that means you need to understand what are the weak areas and what are the weak parts of being a founder where you might need support. And see, I see a lot of people looking for a financial advisor or a lot of people looking for maybe a creative director advising them. And that's all fine, but those are very technical skills that are required for the project to be successful. But what's really important to understand is that the founder also needs to be watered. And what happens with founders is that they are watering the whole team. They are taking care even of the investors and putting a lot into relationships and putting a lot into precision in developing the right product and so on and so forth, but nobody is pouring onto them. And one of the biggest temptations I see with a lot of founders is to try and discuss a lot of the challenges they have at a startup level with a partner, with maybe the parents or maybe friends. And whereas these are your support system, and it's great to have this, safety network that can come and give you a hug sometimes when things go wrong, you need to understand that not everyone within your family or friend circle understands what you're building and why are you doing it. So at this point, it's very important that we are also very, I would say, even merciful with our own friends and family. And we don't demand from them that they keep watering us with something they don't have. That's why I think having a mentor is fundamental. And it should be, a stepping stone for any founder that wants to run the marathon. Because see, entrepreneurship or being a founder is not a short-term thing. It's a lifestyle. And as a lifestyle, a lot of things change once you get yourself into this lane.
Definitely.
Right? And you need the right kind of people by your side, right, to help you navigate this. In this, it's very important to always find a mentor, not only with the right capabilities for what you are trying to build, but also who have developed himself or herself enough to have a well-rounded advice, not only business-wise, but also in the overall spectrum of what being an entrepreneur or a founder means.
What's the best way to get a mentor right now? How can somebody do this if they've never done it before? What are the steps?
So there are a lot of different mentorship platforms where you can start digging and trying to find mentors. In fact, as you know, I've been a mentor to startup for over almost 15 years now. You can find mentors in different places, but what you need to make sure is that also the mentor, again, is the right mentor for you. There are some startups that need a mentor that can be, stronger and can be very ruthless in their advice. There are startups that need a different kind of mentor. There are startups that need somebody that would help them adjust a lot of different things without, especially without fearing, giving the honest feedback. And I think being a mentor, and one of the reasons why a lot of people says, this is my mentor or this is my friend, I always separate being a mentor and being a friend. Most of my mentors, are great friends to me. But I still regard them as a mentor because not every friend can be a mentor.
It's a different
So
relationship.
being a mentor, and in Spanish, for example, we have this word maestro, right? Anyone
Yes.
can be a teacher, but not everyone can be a maestro,
That's true.
right? And I think it's a complete different perspective. You need to be open, and I would say sometimes when looking for a mentor, is a little bit, I would compare it a little bit of, with blind dating. You need to go out, put yourself out there, and try to find who's the right fit.
I see.
And
Okay.
who do you feel comfortable with? Because
I
you
love
need to
that. Yeah, that's
understand
good advice.
this is the person that's going to be giving you advice. So there has to be a point where we click, because otherwise
Yeah.
everything you say will just not fill my cup.
Yeah. So just go out there and try it. Yeah.
See, like I said, there are many platforms, but I think one of the easiest ways is going to the platforms, but also talking to people and being very intentional, being very clear, and saying that you're looking for mentors. And here, when we are talking about getting professional mentors, there is a point where we need to understand that a mentor is not a cost. A mentor is an investment. So a mentor is an investment, and a mentor most likely is charging you way less than what the mentor is contributing to your project.
Of course. Yeah.
But especially on a regional level, we see a lot of resistance from founders in investing on the right kind of mentors.
Investing on a mentor is investing on yourself. Do you want to
Absolutely.
learn? Do you want to grow that startup? I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, it all boils down to understanding that actually the mentor is doing something for you that you cannot do yourself.
Exactly.
And your
Definitely.
family can't provide for you.
For sure. Anna, I wanted to ask you, what are the future trends now that startup founders can benefit from? You see, something happening in the markets that are, going to help people with opportunities.
I think when it comes to future trends, I see a few things that are very interesting. Many of them have been in the making for a couple of years now. Maybe they were getting, very shy and waiting in the corner. But I see there are some very recurring trends that we see as growing. One of them, I would say, we see an increase on the impact investment. We see a lot of investors looking for, sustainable components in projects. We see a lot of investors being interested in social enterprises. That's why when we created, right, our who are we going to serve, right? We said, we definitely want to, serve the tech wizard. We definitely want to serve the, scale up master. But we also want to serve the social entrepreneur because we do see an increase in demand
That's
from
very
our
good.
investors for projects that I would say encapsulate inclusivity. We do see a lot of requests, and nowadays, and this is very important, and as a woman, I find it very refreshing, which is investors suddenly see a pitch deck where we know the question's going to come down, where you see 3 male co-founders, or you see 5, okay, and they are all male. And we know we are going to receive questions. Of course, you don't want to incorporate a female co-founder just to,
To
tick the
that
box,
yeah.
or to, fulfill a quota. You want to do that on a merit level, but we do see a lot more of investors, especially when capital is coming from the States or Europe, where they are very concerned, or maybe not concerned, let me rephrase that, where they are very interested in supporting startups that have the inclusivity consideration, right? And please, let's be clear here. This is not about a political discussion or, feminism or building, like I said, fulfilling a quota.
Yeah.
No, we are talking about smart investors who understand that when you don't have a female co-founder, you're missing out on 54%
Yes.
of the global market.
It's a market reality.
Because you don't have the right kind of people sitting at the table.
That's very
so
good.
We are always inviting now co-founders to open up a little bit and to make sure that we create seats at the table for all the relevant people within the market. So again, this is not about fulfilling a quota. This is about understanding that when you intentionally incorporate diversity, when you intentionally incorporate inclusivity in a project, what you're doing is you're making sure that you're going to be able to attend to that percentage of the market, because that perspective is incorporated in the table where everything is being cooked.
I see.
And
That's
again, I would
very
insist
good to mention that, yeah.
Yes,
that's very
I think
important.
it's a very interesting trend. Like I said, I want to emphasize on sustainability. It's very important also because this is a discussion we have with startups. Don't try to greenwash your project.
Of
We are
course.
not interested in ticking boxes.
Yeah.
Investors are smart. Investors are well-rounded. And even if there is one person in between investors and startups, investors know what's happening. So don't try to greenwash your project. Be sure that what you are creating has sustainable components.
Truly.
Because, see, I do believe it's not just about making money. It's also about making money, creating the right kind of impact.
Yes, definitely.
And that is something that we love to see.
I love that. Yeah, value to humanity. And I'm really happy that impact businesses are starting to get really some attention. And
Definitely.
I like that it's become a priority for a lot of investors.
Oh, it is indeed.
I think before we wrap up, Anna, just like final general tips for entrepreneurs out there. I know that we've talked a lot about a lot of things that founders can learn from. What are some other general tips that we can wrap the show with?
Okay, this is
It's a very broad question, but what would be your favorite, maybe 3 tips, 3 quick tips?
So I would say, again, let's go back to the beginning of the discussion, and let's start with this. It all starts with you. Right? As a founder, everything starts with you. You are your own MVP. Take care of your health. Your project is as viable as your health. There's no question about that. Make sure you incorporate the right kind of support system. Make sure you invest in continuous learning. It's very, very important to understand that as a founder, you don't need to have all the answers. What you need to have is the humility to keep on learning and the drive to keep on researching and keep on expanding your knowledge beyond traditional degrees. I mean, I'm not saying, if you want to be a founder, go and get yourself a PhD. No, that's completely out of question. Keep on learning, keep on learning, keep on cultivating yourself, keep on building your own MVP, right?
Excellent.
I would say, lastly, going back to a very practical point, make sure you have a very open relationship with your investors. Don't lie to investors. There's no need. It's like trying to lie to your parents. It just doesn't work. Don't overdo the pitch, the pitch deck. I mean, there are some pitch decks that have 50 pages. That's completely unnecessary. That's not impressive. That only tells me that you don't have the capacity to condense information.
Yes, true.
Right? So if you need to explain something, make sure you can explain it to me in 30 seconds. And don't try to impress investors with your idea, with your pitch. Yes, of course, we are all selling, right? Definitely. But I think I would, if I had to tell just one bit to founders, would be, don't focus on having an impressive project. Focus on being impressive, yourself.
I love that. I love that.
I think
it
I would
begins
close
and
that.
it ends with you.
Yes.
Final question for the day. What's
Yes.
your hope for the future with all these businesses that you're mentoring, all these startups that you're connecting with venture capitalists and all that? What's Anna Arzua MacMillan's hope for the future?
I would say my hope is definitely to create an ecosystem and to see that this ecosystem is expansive, where more, intentional investors are looking for impact investment. I hope to see governments enable and I would even say reward, founders, recognize founders who are creating solutions with an objective to also create impact within the community, to give back to the community. And most definitely, I would hope to see sooner rather than later how the ecosystem of founders and how more and more of our founders get committed and engage in facilitating the path for other for other founders, right? I feel right now the price a founder has to pay is too high. I feel there are not enough tools for founders, and I would love to see successful founders giving back their time and giving back at least snippets of their lessons to share with others. I think we need to enable a more nurturing,
I love that.
a more nurturing entrepreneurial and startup community where we acknowledge all of the challenges we have, and we also acknowledge the fact that a lot of these things can be solved right without needing funds, but with needing the right kind of people around. I think we need to start rewarding a lot more impact. And I think these are a little bit of what I could hope for the immediate future. And I would say, lastly, one of the most important things when it comes to technology, I would hope there is a lot of more commitment to the ethical use of data
True.
and technology.
That's very true.
And that's...
I love all these things. Those are great visions, Anna. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your insights, and these are very valuable for all the startup founders out there or people who are thinking of building startups. I wish you well, more impact to humanity. I know that you're doing great work. I wish you all the energy that, that the universe will give you so that you can help more people out there. Thank you so much. And for you guys listening out there, if you are a founder or if you know founders within your circle, please do share this podcast and make sure that they also learn from the lessons that our guest has shared with us today. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe and help the channel. Thank you again to Rove. And this was another great episode of Challenger Brands. We will see you soon. Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you to everybody. Bye-bye.
Please subscribe to our channel and share our content. For more actionable insights on brand and business building, follow us on our agency's social media pages, Illustrado.co, or subscribe to our newsletter via our website, www.illustrado.co.